After the death of Spider-Man, we see J. Jonah Jameson sitting alone, trying to write an article admitting he always knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, but he just couldn't bring himself to finish it. Johnny Storm can't contain his rage and grief, flying above the city and letting out an explosive scream. Kitty Pryde, one of Peter's exes, throws herself into crime fighting, holding back nothing, trying to outrun the weight of her emotions. Meanwhile, MJ quietly begins investigating S.H.I.E.L.D., blaming Nick Fury for Peter's death. Tony Stark takes Gwen and Aunt May to Peter's massive funeral, offering them all the help he can give. On the way, May tells him this isn't what Peter would have wanted, but eventually she steps out of the car and walks into the church. She sits down, and almost immediately, Steve Rogers kneels beside her. He quietly says Peter's death is his fault. Confused, May asks what he means. Steve admits that on the day Peter died, he told him he wasn't cut out to be a hero, and Peter still took a bullet for him later that same day. The bullet that ended up killing him. May, heartbroken and furious, says the heroes were never there for Peter, even though he was always there for them. Then she slaps Cap across the face and storms out of the church, only to be stopped by Jonah, who says nothing, just gently guiding her back inside. After seeing Manhattan filled with spider-powered people dressing up as Spider-Man, Peter Parker headed back home only to find that his girlfriend Carly had gotten powers too. It turns out this all happened because a villain named the Jackal had spread spider-powered bedbugs across the city and handed out costumes to cause absolute chaos. Jackal was also conducting his own experiments, including mutating the Peter Parker clone Kane, all to execute a much larger plan. The Avengers quickly stepped in to control the situation and take down the spider-powered civilians. Since they couldn't tell who the real Spider-Man was, Pete's identity was still a secret to most. So instead of trying to prove who he was, Peter went on camera pretending to be a regular citizen who had gained powers, encouraging others to use their abilities for good. Surprisingly, it worked. He managed to rally a group of citizens to help the heroes fight off the chaos. Meanwhile, Reed Richards and Max Modell were working on a cure for the infection, while also sealing off New York with psychic barriers to stop the spread. They successfully created a test sample and tried it on J. Jonah Jameson, who was shocked to learn he was infected too. But as time passed, the infected began mutating into full-on spiders, and that's when the true mastermind, the Spider Queen, revealed herself. She planned all of this to build her own spider-ruled kingdom, taking control of anyone with the insect gene, which now included a huge chunk of the city. With chaos erupting, Jonah even teamed up with Spider-Man to interrogate the Spider Slayer, who told Peter he already had what he needed to defeat the Queen, right before Jonah snapped and killed him. Later, Reed discovered that Anti-Venom could use his antibodies to help finalize the cure, so Agent Venom was sent to retrieve him and sacrifice the entire symbiote to finish the antidote. But just then, the Spider Queen sent Kane to contaminate the cure. Peter managed to defeat and cure him, even giving Kane his suit to keep Pete's identity secret. Realizing the war was slipping out of her hands, the Spider Queen transformed into a giant spider, leading to an all-out war. But Peter remembered what the Spider Slayer told him and returned to Doc Ock's old lab, using his Octobots to distribute the cure across the city, just before Kane arrived and killed the Spider Queen for good. After Spider-Man finally gets married to MJ, we see him living peacefully with her and their daughter, until he casually mentions how things have been hectic lately due to the disappearance of heroes like Daredevil and Moon Knight. Soon after, Spidey gets called into an Avengers meeting where Cap reveals the disappearances are all linked to a man named Regent, a powerful figure who runs a company researching metahumans. But before they can act, news of a prison break hits. Peter quickly calls MJ and rushes home, only to find her and their daughter being held hostage by Venom. While Spidey fights Venom, eventually letting him burn to death, the Avengers confront Regent and realize too late he's been killing heroes to absorb their powers. By the time Peter finishes with Venom, most of the Avengers are already dead, and the loss forces him to retire, choosing to protect his family instead. And so years later, we see Pete living in a world ruled by Regent, who hired villains to work for him to basically sweep off all heroes and work against the resistance. To survive, Peter and his daughter Annie wear inhibitor collars that keep their powers suppressed and off Regent's radar. But one day, Annie's powers flare up at school, attracting the attention of Regent's agents. Peter is forced to intervene, revealing himself and getting spotted by one of the agents, who immediately reports him. To lure Peter out, Regent deploys the Sinister Six and begins running security checks at every school. Peter brings out the black suit and takes down the Six while trying to protect a superpowered kid, but is stopped by Sandman, who he doesn't trust, until Regent shows up and captures them both. They're locked in pods, leaving it to MJ, Annie, and Hawkeye's resistance to launch a rescue mission. In the final battle, Regent nearly wins, until Annie disables his connection to the pods. When he tries to strike her, Peter's spider sense kicks in, letting him break free and take the fight outside. There, Hawkeye tosses Annie an arrow made from her inhibitor collar, which she uses to hit Regent, shutting down his powers for good. With Regent defeated, Peter finally gets the one thing he's always fought for, a quiet, happy life with his family.
Back in the 90s, Peter Parker discovered something unthinkable. There was someone out there with the same face, same memories, and the exact same powers. His name? Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. Years earlier, the villain Jackal had cloned Peter, and while everyone thought the clone had died, he survived, living in secret. At first, Peter and Ben clashed, but things quickly spiraled out of control. More clones began to surface, like Kane, a scarred and violent early prototype, and Spider-Side, a twisted shapeshifter with unstable powers. Even a clone of Gwen Stacy appeared, reopening old wounds. Then came the bombshell. Tests revealed that Ben was the original, and Peter, the one fans had followed for years, was just the clone. Stunned and emotionally wrecked, Peter stepped away from being Spider-Man to raise his soon-to-be-born child with MJ. Ben became the new Spider-Man, but the story didn't sit well with fans. After over a year of convoluted twists, fake deaths, and endless clone reveals, Marvel reversed the decision. Peter was the real deal all along. Ben Reilly died heroically saving him, disintegrating in Peter's arms. Peter reclaimed the mask, but the clone saga left a lasting mark on Spider-Man history. Even today, it's one of the most controversial and unforgettable arcs ever told.
Did you know Spider-Man once made a deal with the devil and lost everything? After Peter revealed his identity during Civil War, Kingpin sent an assassin to kill him. The bullet missed Peter and hit Aunt May. Peter was shattered and furious. He hunted Fisk down in prison and nearly beat him to death, but May was still dying. That's when Mephisto appeared. He offered Peter a cruel bargain. May would live, but Peter's marriage to MJ would be erased. No wedding, no memories, no love. Peter begged for another way, but MJ agreed. She told him she'd love him in any life. Peter said yes. Aunt May lived. Peter woke up alone. The world had changed. No one remembered his identity. MJ was gone. Spider-Man saved a life, but Peter Parker gave up his own.